My name is Milton Carr, actually Milton J. Carr Jr. I'm a junior. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1953. And I come up in a family where we were culturally minded. You know, the cultures in New Orleans was a big part of my life from a kid all the way even till today. And coming up in New Orleans, you know, there's certain things that you did. It was certain ways that you did things. And my first experience with credit unions was the elementary school I went to, Corpus Christi School. And I never forget, you know, basements are not prevalent here in New Orleans, but Corpus Christi School had a basement. And our basements are actually raised above the ground, so it's not actually that deep, you know, but we do call them basements. And I remember Corpus Christi Credit Union, which is a real viable credit union to help a lot of people buy their homes and stuff like that, was in the basement of Corpus Christi. And I never was a member, but always impressed by the fact that the Creoles that lived in the 7th Ward took time out to not only educate, but also do economics, you know, live the economics of it. Because I tell people today that a lot of black people are not in a physical bondage, they're in an economical bondage. And people, or institutions like credit unions, is the thing that help you take those shackles off. So I learned that at actually a real young age, you know. But as I grew up in New Orleans, as I told you, I went to Corpus Christi Elementary School, which was a Catholic education, which was actually a real quality education that I had. And then after I went to St. Augustine High School, was all-male Catholic high school for 9th grade. But the corporal punishment in the school that I do agree with today, I didn't agree with when it was given to me. So I convinced my mom to, I was going to save her some money by going to public school. And what happened, I wound up in a boiling pot of integration. So
what year was that?
That was the year that I started in to integrate the high school was in 1968-69 school year. The 67-68 year was my 9th grade year at St. Augustine, and my 10th grade year was at Francis T. Nichols High School. And at that location, I knew about integration. I knew about segregation. I was old enough to ride on the back of the buses when I was younger, so I kind of knew that. But what I didn't know was that I was going to a segregated school. I didn't realize it. And why I didn't realize it is because in my school, all of the nuns were white. The people that went to the school, to know a little bit about the culture of New Orleans 7th Ward has been a place in the city that has always been a place where Creoles live. And to tell you what a Creole basically is saying, somebody that family had heritage in the old world, and they were starting a new life for a new generation here in the new world. So the first Creoles were descendants of the Europeans who came, but when the Europeans came, not many European women came. So the concubines were Native Americans and the slaves. So we then had some people that claimed they were Creoles also, but Creoles of color, because they have European ancestry, but also black and Native American. So I give a definition of Creole being the firstborn in the new world of old world parents. So the 7th Ward is a bastion for Creoles, and you have Creoles, when we say Creoles of color, they are all colors. Some as fair as you, some as dark as this phone. So in that school we had a fair amount of light-skinned or fair-skinned Negroes. So I had schoolmates that looked like, you know, a white person. You couldn't tell they were white or black by looking at them. And so I went to school with kids that looked at white. I had white nuns. We had black lay teachers, so I had black and white teaching me. It seemed like I had black and white going to school with me, if we talking about just outward appearance. So as I went to integrate Nichols, it was kind of a strange thing to me because not so much the kids, we had differences between kids before that, and I didn't see the differences. We had black and white, confrontations, but at the school I came from, and originally you could say it was black and white confrontations too, because kids will be kids. So it wasn't that much of it, which it had something to do with it, but I think it was more that I got a realization that I came from a system where I was nurtured. I mean, every kid in my school can say that they were nurtured. So, I mean, the nuns pull your ears and they crack your knuckles and they did all of that, but I never felt that any of them felt that I couldn't do it. They were always telling my mother that, oh, no, he's not doing as good as he could do. He could do better. And when I get to a public school where she wasn't my first white teacher, so it wasn't that I couldn't relate to her, but I think what it was, this lady was a very elderly lady that was still in the school teaching, and she just couldn't come to the realization that she had a black kid in her class, me, that I was very good in math. I did well in math. That was one of my better subjects before. So she just couldn't, she really couldn't fathom that. And what that did with me was make me realize that I had a grown person that actually, she thought I was cheating or something. I was one of the first ones to finish the test. But she just could not come to that realization. So I would sit in the back of the class, she moved to the front of the class. After she gave me a bad grade on my report card, after I made, I think it was 300s and a 90, we had trimesters, and she gave me a 67, I just, couldn't deal with it, and I just rebelled, and I still did good in school, but after I do my work, I would do all kinds of stuff. So it didn't go well with my mother, and I can tell you now, I lost that battle. But that year, I wound up going there. My mother, my cousin actually was in the Navy in San Diego, and he knew all of the turmoil that was going on. And he called my mother and told her, that if I wanted to come out there, that I could come out there and go to school, because I played football too, and we thought it would be a good opportunity for me. And it was. I went out from having a teacher like that to going out there to having a teacher where she let you put your desk wherever you wanted to put your. You didn't have to wear shoes to school. We didn't. We had dress codes here, and I go to California, it's altogether different. One of the biggest things, the fact that I leave here in New Orleans, even though we didn't have segregation or the segregation walls. The segregation walls were coming down. It was a process. It just didn't happen overnight. So what we had is me going to California, where I leave here, where everything is black or white. I knew they had Asian people. I knew they had Hispanic people. But people in New Orleans took a side. You was either black or you were white. So I took that same understanding as a 15-year-old to California in 1969. My first friends weren't black in California. I guess it was really colorblindness, because being a person coming from a place where I had New Orleans is predominantly black. I went to mostly predominantly black schools. The people in my neighborhood was predominantly black. So going from there to California, where it wasn't definitely predominantly black, and the school I went to was fairly new, so we didn't really have a predominance of anybody. If anybody, it would have been Hispanics. But the first people befriend me were two Samoans and a Hispanic guy. And the Samoan guys, I couldn't explain those dudes, bro. They had like black people, white people hair, but it came out like a big afro. They didn't wear shoes to school. They were. I was a pretty big 15-year-old. I was like almost 6 feet. I was about 175 pounds. And man, these dudes was 6 something and 250 and 220, and not fat at all, and their sisters was even bigger than me. So I wasn't about to question these guys, because I just realized they weren't the same. I could not put them in that cookie cutter black or white, So me and a Hispanic guy got into a conversation one time about black and white. And I told him basically in so many words, man, you're either black or you're white. He didn't take that too well. He was furious. He told me, I'm not no damn gringo. And gringo, I said, man, I heard that word in the movies. I said, I mean white. So I said, you know, and that wasn't a good word, you know. So I said, well, if you're not white, what are you? He said, I'm a Chicano. I said, Chicano? What is a Chicano? He said, I'm the firstborn in the United States of Mexican parents. Well, it related to me as we talk about Creole, as I just explained to you what it was. So, but that one statement, you know, you ever been in a point in your life where one thing or one person just kind of opened up that whole, well, that's what that did for me. It made me realize that everything wasn't just as we did in New Orleans. You know, I was proud of New Orleans, and I thought that we did everything the best way and the only way, and it kind of, you know, knocked me down a peg to realize that, you know what, they got other ways of doing things. And so it was an eye-opener for me to appreciate not only other cultures, but I think to even more appreciate my own culture, you know. Mm-hmm. And my culture, when I look at it, is a lot of organizing. Mm-hmm. You know, as I look and get older, as I come out of college and go into workforce, you know, the union, which was part of our credit union, was part of what New Orleans was about.
So did you come back here for college, or?
I came back and basically started working. Mm-hmm. I came back. I was in college there. I basically wanted just to play football, you know, and I wanted to come back home to play. I wasn't a very big offensive guard. That was my position, so I didn't get many scholarships here. Now, I got some scholarship offers in San Diego where I could have continued college, but my family, we are a big part of New Orleans culture, you know, and I have been before I was born. They have been before I was born. So that lack of that infusion of my culture, of participating or doing it, you know, practice, we don't just talk about it and look at it here, you know, we live it. So that part of my social being was kind of like with a wheel with a flat part. Mm-hmm. And I would come home every summer, but it just wasn't enough. So eventually I came home after I did high school and I did 2 years of college out there. And I came home and I started working. I started working as a truck driver for the city. And from that job, I got the job at Domino's Sugars. And for a while, I was always impressed with the credit union because of my experience at Corpus Christi. You know, the people that was went into the credit union, they always looked prosperous, and the fact that they could put money in the bank. You know, I came from a family, you know, paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes you had to make one paycheck last two times. You know, so I didn't come from a family that had a lot. So bank accounts and stuff like that. You know, if my mama had one, it was, she kept it a real secret, you know. It wasn't until later in her life that she was able to actually save money, you know. So, but again, I was impressed with that. So as I get to the refinery, you know, they tell me about the credit union, and I checked it out, but I was watching it, you know. I wanted to see what was going on because the thing that amazed me the most was that the guys that I worked with every day next to me was the guys that was running it. Not that I didn't trust them, but I just wanted to, you know, how a guy like you just working with me like everyday people. I didn't know that you could just be a regular person and you know, work a credit union, you know. So that intrigued me, and then eventually I got in. And one of the reasons why I got in was I realized that you know, I made a plan. Okay, I'm gonna take $40 out of my check a week, and which at that time, and I started working in 1973. That was a pretty good amount of money, you know. So I said I'm gonna start saving $40 a week. Well, I'll get to the bank when I got paid, cash the check, I open an account, but that $40 couldn't quite get there, you know, maybe 20, you know, sometimes 50, sometimes none. So I did less spell 40 than I was supposed to. So some say, man, get in the credit union. That way that you can allocate whatever you're going to allocate, and it's going to come out, and you're not going to see it.
Just like payroll deduction.
It's like, yeah, payroll deduction. That's what it was, payroll deduction. So that aspect of it gave me a better sense of saving. And so from there, actually, I was able to save money to buy my home. Mm-hmm. You know, that was the money I used for down payment on my home.
How many workers were at the plant, and like how big?
When
was
I first started, when I first started, we probably had about 800 members in our union. Now, I'm not quite sure those numbers in the credit union because one of the issues, even though in New Orleans we have it was integrated, but as I was telling you earlier before we went on tape, was many of them people that worked there were black because of the fact that we had many other refineries along that corridor. To show you how many we had, a person could have quit the refinery today and next day went right in our next block or right behind our refinery and got on with Kaiser Aluminum, which actually paid more money, had better benefits. Could quit that day and go down to Tentacle Oil Refinery, get more benefits, make more money. Quit there the next day, go down to Mercury Oil, make more money and better benefits. Could quit there, go down to the nickel plant, could make more money and better benefits. Could quit the nickel plant and go down to the ammunition plant, could make more money and better benefits. So what we had was many blacks having the Domino Sugar job, where the Wonder job that paid more were hiring most of the whites. So what happened is, as you get some of these other refineries closing down because of different reasons, and also you had some of the refineries started hiring contractors because these were union jobs that I'm telling you about. They were high paid, they got good pensions, paid vacations and all. So what we had was those jobs now paying a good salary, but they start hiring contractors. Mm-hmm. Contractors pay a good hourly rate, but no pension, no health benefits, none of that. So what would happen is some of those guys started working at the company with the contractors, and then after a while they realized they needed the benefits and they needed the retirement. So then you started getting some of them coming into Domino. By the time they come to Domino, I'm not sure the year, but Joe West and those other guys can tell you the year it was started. These guys had started a credit union. The black guys down there had started a credit union. So initially, some of the whites that wanted to join it because it was run by most of the blacks. And it's kind of like, I hate to make it a racial thing, and maybe it wasn't, because as I told you, as I first got there, not that I didn't trust anybody, not that I was any better than anybody, but it was kind of hard for me to fathom that a guy that's pitching sacks or is a checker in the a loading operator that's checking stuff or making boiling sugar is the officer or the guy that runs our money, and and maybe they thought the same thing. So initially we had mostly blacks in the credit union. And eventually, I guess some of them come over to the same realization of me that, you can save a whole lot more if it come out your check first and then later. So I learned that aspect of it, and then I learned the aspect of being able to buy automobiles with a loan, just get a cash loan and go out and look for a nice car. Because I never was a big, brand new car person. I was always a frugal type person. So the credit union allowed me to do that. I could borrow our credit union when I started. You could borrow it up to $20,000. And it was not a collateral loan. I'm sorry, not 20,000, 10,000, up to $10,000, and it wasn't a collateral loan. You couldn't do that anywhere. And those monies helped me start a business. It helped me procure several really nice vehicles that I didn't have a monthly note. I had a note, but the note was taken out of the money that I was allocated already to come out my check. Mm-hmm. And before I bought anything, I had gotten too used to, by the time I retired, I was saving $200 a week, would come out of my check. Mm-hmm. I had adjusted myself to live off of the rest, or I had business and I did other things to help me. But I knew one thing, that $200 a week, that $800 or sometimes $1,000 a month built up real fast. And then our credit union paid pretty good interest, through the years. And it still paid a pretty good amount of interest compared to when I talk about the bank.
So how did you go from being, you joined as a member, how did you go to like getting more involved and becoming a leader?
Well, what happens is, being a member, as we started working in the refinery, if you can picture this, we had people that worked there for a long time. When I got there, they had a gentleman that worked there 50 years. He started at 15, he worked till he was 65. So we had many, many people that was there for a long, long time. As we started in the 70s, it was a lot of young people that started. Now, when we got there, we had black people that ran the union, and so we had some astute guys that knew what they were doing so far as business work-wise, working and also negotiating contracts and all that. And they were astute evident with numbers, because those same guys basically ran a credit union. But what you had was, when I get there in 1973, we basically had what I would call a black faction and a white faction of the union. Mm. But as I went through my stages, I found out that the union was strongest when we did have the different factions. Not necessarily because they were black and white. What happens in 1970 or 69 when we start hiring the guys my age, well, now we were more adept to having a white friend, or we were more adept to saying, well, I trust such and such. I work side by side with him every day. We have a bond. So we were like the third faction now. And the third faction was integrated, blacks and whites. We were, of course, young. So it made some of the older blacks look at us, well, man, look, you don't know what you're doing. I've been doing this a long time. Of course, telling me this privately, and then you had some of the whites telling some of the younger whites, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. We've been doing this all the time. You know what I'm saying? Almost like, don't trust them guys. Okay, don't trust them guys. And we were like, well, I trust you, and you trust me, that's fine. So what happens with me, I'm getting to the point now where I'm been here like maybe 10 years, going on 12 years, and I just wanted to be more involved with the credit union. I felt as though the credit union could be as good as we wanted to be, because as we started, I started going to annual meetings. They started running down to us what it was about, how a regular guy is able to run a credit union. It's not no big old deal. It's just, adding and subtracting, and business is simple, I'm not telling nobody not to go get a degree, but if you keep it simple, stupid, it's not that hard, and that realization, and as I told you earlier, being kind of prolific with numbers, I felt as though, okay, well, yeah, we could make the credit union work for us even better. And that was one of the reasons why I joined. I've always been a civic-minded. My family always been civic-minded. So I guess I felt as though I was coming of my age, not to be just as my grandmother used to say, a bump on a log. To participate. Don't cry about something if you're going to just go along with it. Do something about it. Get involved,
So what was the first way you got involved? Did you run for the board, or?
I ran for the one of the board members. I was a board member, and eventually got on.
And were those elections competitive, or was it more you just sort of like a seat would open up and it'd be like, who wants to do it? Or?
It was a little competitive in that as we started getting into the board and stuff in the credit union, we had some old factions was like, some of these youngsters don't know what they're doing. We got to make sure, we were, or still is, a very viable credit union for the number of people because of the fact that we have a payroll deduction. A guy can have terrible credit, don't pay nobody in the world, but when I'm working next to him, as long as I know he's punching his clock, I know he's paying that loan. So that means if I'm saving my money, I'm going to make more money on the fact that we have a lot of people now as young that needs to borrow money. And I hate to say it, but our young people, their credit ratings is atrocious. That's one of the things I started to try to do, to try to get them to shore up and looking at what they buy. Make good buys. Don't make a buy that's just going to cost you. You can make a buy that's going to profit you. You know what I'm saying? So that was my purpose of getting on. And then eventually I became the president of the credit union. And
was that like a paid position in any way, or was it all volunteer?
All volunteer. Everything is volunteer. All our members are volunteer. It's got to be something you want to do. And I guarantee if my wife was here, she'll tell you about the times when our guys work 24/7, three different shifts. We don't have a credit union office. Our office is where our union officers are. So you are in what was before the storm when I was a credit was our office. So when the guys wanted, they had to make withdrawals and things like that. And we started getting some of the younger guys in. And I'll never forget a particular story. Young man wanted to make $1,000 loan. And, he qualified, everything worked for him, got the loan. Okay, yeah, everything approved. I got your money. Now, most of the time we'll give it to him at work. Well, I didn't see him at work. So I told him, I said, well, look, I got your check. Just come over to my house when you get off. Oh, Boo, they call me Boo. So, Boo, I don't get off till 11 o'clock tonight. No problem. I don't live right about a 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Got to take it longer to walk to the parking lot than come to my house. No problem, come to my house. Okay, so, but he don't realize, I gave him his check, but I asked him, no, I gave you a check as a union president, as a credit union president, but now I want to talk to you like I was your father. And I tell him, what the hell are you making $1,000 loan to go to the damn Saints game? You make $800 bring home every week. He wasn't married, he had no kids. And I said, you probably got 1,000 pair of tennis under your bed. I said, this credit union is for you to try to upgrade yourself. Oh, but I'm almost paid for my car. No, that's fine. But the car depreciates in value the minute you drive it off the lot. And he bought a car through the credit union. But I was trying to convince him, now your next step is to try to get you a home, buy your house. That way that's going to help you. It's going to help the credit union. It also helps the union. Because the more financially set I am, then the better it's going to make it for me when I go to negotiations. So one of the things I started in the credit union was we call a strike fund. Still exists today. I figured out what the average guy may need to pay his bills per month. So I came up with some numbers. We have usually a 3-year contract. And we set it up where they start saving the money at the beginning of the contract. No less than $25. Save $25 a week. And by the time we get time to negotiate our contract, I think the number was something like $3,500 or $3,600, which on the average should give you at least 2 to 3 months of bills. If you paid your minimum, and you had to make groceries and all of that, that $3,600 will get you through a time when I could look at a contract and say, you know what, I could live 2 more weeks without that. So that means you are voting for what's best for your family in the future rather than voting what's best for your family right now, because I need that check to buy groceries next week. So,
and was the union itself a member of the credit union? Like, did it keep funds there or no?
No. It's two completely separate entities. So the strike fund, to me, it helped us to be able to negotiate better, because now we have, even if everybody wasn't in the credit union, but actually we actually got some guys to come in the credit union because of that. And also what it was a long-term savings. It was a 3 years, so it was like a money market. So we was able to give a higher percentage rate on the money. So not only did you save because the $3,600 that I'm telling you is the base amount of the savings, is not counting your interest. Mm-hmm. So in some instances you would have, and I got to the point where I would save $50 a month, and every 3 years I had $7,000. And that's being able to say, okay, well look, now me and my wife could take a real nice vacation, because now we got a good contract, So those are some of the things that I implemented, along with before I was president. I think before I was president, I initiated the strike fund, and also before I was president, initiated getting some of the guys that were retiring to stay on, because as we started getting to the guys that were a little older than me that were starting to retire, I started having older guys coming to me now asking me, okay, boo, I'm ready to retire. How this work? Well, at first I didn't know how all of that worked, and so what I did was made myself abreast of it. And one of the things I realized that we had large chunks of money leaving every time we have one or two of those guys would retire, because they would withdraw all of their money. So we weren't paying no great amount, so far as compared to the banks. So we didn't really have much incentive. But my incentive to them was that, we were all young once. We all needed help, and you guys are helping these guys, and then at the same time you're getting a pretty good amount. You're getting at least what the bank's paying. In a lot of instances, then what we started doing is we started implementing ways when you had the long-term savings where you would get more, and then being able to do that, because we are our credit union. We are the credit union. So every time I learn all of these different little things, it just let me know that we are in control. We can be in control, and a credit union, like, to me, is one of the best things that working people can have.
So one of the big kind of like trends in credit unions over the past few decades has been like kind of consolidating and them becoming like bigger and more professional. Like, did you guys face any of those pressures, and like how did you kind of?
We still a local only with us. And again, the reason why I just gave you, the fact that we are direct deposit, we've implemented, and these are the guys that we got. We got a great money manager now that runs our credit union, that helps us run the credit union, whereas before we did everything ourselves. But we found out that we were better off now having people coming in who, well, this is all they do. And he advises a couple of credit unions, and ours being one of them. But we did some things that we were able to implement that made it a lot better, because of that, and because of the fact that we are, deposit, direct deposit. We've put some parameters in how you withdraw and some of the other things, just like other credit unions, that keeps it viable. Again, now, young people today has a different idea than young people when I came in. So we have the mentality. I think the mentality of America today is buy first, pay later. Whereas I think the mentality for at least my generation was not as much buy now and pay later. I think the generation before us was even less. You save now and then you pay after you save it. So as you look at the shifts, we have that shift, and our credit union is dealing with it. as it is, but it has still remained a close-knit number. It's not a big number. Outsiders, nobody's outside of that, just retirees. Yeah, so today our credit union has other issues to deal with. Now, I'm no longer president. I stepped down purposely because I felt as though it was time for these younger guys to step up, to learn how it worked, because if we gone today tomorrow, they won't know what to do. So I'm still on the advisory committee. I still participate in the annual meetings and stuff like that. I converse with the guys all the time, especially the board members, the older board members that's still there. But we got some younger cats that before I left, I kind of encouraged these guys to step up, and I felt as though they were resourceful enough young men that they would be an asset to the credit union. Like I say again, some people don't realize that it's not a glorious thing. Not no big money in it or none of that. You got to actually be in it for the satisfaction of it, And some of us older guys that's been doing it for a long time, that's our mantra. We never did it for anything but to help our fellow workers and also to prosper us. Because if I help the guy next to me economically pull himself up, be more satisfied with what he's doing, then we all gonna have a better day at the end of the day.
So one thing that for a lot of smaller credit unions has been a challenge over the years was the kind of the regulator, like the NCUA, coming in and saying, okay, we don't think you're good. We're just going to roll you into a bigger credit union. What was the relationship like with the regulators?
Our relationship wasn't bad. One of the reasons why we had to go from us doing it, that we had to get an advisor, was some of the things that we were doing weren't necessarily wrong, but it was based upon how our credit union worked. We based it upon the fact that I know you come in, as long as I see you coming to work, the union officers were also some of the union members. So sometimes we had, knowledge about whether a guy was in trouble of losing his job. In that case, one of the things that you would want to do as a credit union is to check his work status. So, what any loan institution would do. And it's not advantageous to learn to somebody, guy just got 5 days off, and which we never actually, used this against anybody, but it was a good way of knowledgeable way of knowing that you got a person that's viable, person need a loan, you help them out. You try to make it happen, so those are the things that we have to kind of pull in. You have to have those regulations, you got to stick with them. But we had ways to work with them, either having, multiple co-signers and all, and then sometimes we had ran into an issue where we had too many of the same people co-signing. You know what I'm saying? So you have, if 2 or 3 people go out, then you got about maybe 4 people that really have to pay for this. So some of those things we have to adjust, but on the most part, our credit union has been getting a high rating. And Mr. Albert Phoenix is the guy that is an advisor on our credit union, and I gave him a lot of accolades because he was a smart guy. He want to make sure we always up and up in what we're doing. People could do things wrong now on purpose, and it could cause big problems for your credit union. So in that aspect, he has been able to keep us, on our I guess P's and Q's, you might want to say. But some of the things that we would like to see done that we haven't is like having debit cards and credit cards. But the nature of what we do, it kind of hinders that, because we have people that have loans, they're working, they're trying to pay the loans. When you have the debit card, that's what I found this out after, Hurricane Katrina. I wasn't much of a debit card person before Katrina. Before Katrina, I wrote checks, balanced my checkbook. Well, after Katrina, we started using plastic because of the fact, a lot of us was caught with not but plastic. So now, I have my wife using the plastic, I'm using the plastic. There's no way I could keep up with what we both spending with balancing the checkbook. We're not even hardly writing checks no more. I'm paying my bills online and all. So I just have to monitor it by, checking it every few days and being aware of, I got a few $100s in it. And, when I get kind of low with being retired now, I have to tell my wife, it's the 17th or it's the 18th, if you go to the store, you check the account before you go. She still insists to not check the account, but again, I check it. I make sure they got, enough in there. And in retirement, that's the big thing with retirement. My credit union, I'm still a member of my credit union. I know when I need running a pinch, I know I can either go get a little money that I got in, or if I have to make a loan. I'm not much of a loan person no more, since I retired. And I kind of leave that to those youngsters. They got to pay for good education for the kids, and you maybe got to pay for I know I used to pay for my homeowners insurance and my car insurance. All of that I paid up when the 6 months was up. I paid it, boom, just got a credit union and get it out. So like I said again, I thank the credit union a lot. My first home I bought was through the funds that I saved in my credit union. I can't say my first car because I bought my first car when I was in California, but it helped me buy several other cars. I might as well say almost every other car after that until I retired in 2007. Never had but one brand new car that I bought, and I actually bought it for my wife. So all of the cars I bought actually was money that I had saved through the credit union and bought a really nice private owner, which you don't see that too much no more. Everything is some kind of way you got to go to a dealer or somebody selling them. But back in the day, man, it was nothing to buy a nice used car from a person who had bought it brand new and still had it.
So one of the other things I'm curious about, there's really don't know much about this, and there's very little written. So this is kind of one of the big reasons I'm wanting to figure out this project is. So what was the relationship kind of as a predominantly black credit union with the sort of league? Where in the league leadership where they did was because I know sort of at least in the 50s and things the leagues tended to have a certain amount of segregation. How did the sort of racial relations piece play out in the sort of larger credit union movement in your experience?
Well, I think maybe Leo and Joe West might be able to give you a better insight, because as I told you, when I come in with that third faction. I come with that integrated faction. When we talk about the other workings of the credit union, I was just starting to get into it. The workings of first being a member and finding out how it working. So by the time I got into it, I don't really know too much about the other leagues that we were in. I know we were in, the board members, we were automatically in the local credit union. We could
the chapter.
The chapter. I know we could borrow $20,000 cash because we were board members. We had different things. I actually never did touch upon a lot of those things. But I could say again, maybe Joe West and my other prior president Mike could give you a little better insight on it.
Okay. And sort of looking to the kind of where you see the credit union going, in the future, what do you see as the kind of challenges and the sort of opportunities?
Right now, I live in the lower Ninth Ward, and it's amazing how things work. You come in here when just the other day on my mind, I went to a meeting at City Hall. The area that we have over here, this is called the Holy Cross Historic District on this side of St. Claude. This is the higher ground, so it's more expensive. Some of the houses are a little older. We didn't have as much physical damage on here as we did on the other side. And the area where we had a local high school, Holy Cross High School, they have moved. They moved to the other side, and now they're trying to figure out what to do with the property. It's a large property. And one of the things they wanted to do is change the code where they're going to have 7-story building or something. I think the code called for no more than 40 feet or 45 feet, and they want to make a building that's 75 feet or whatever. Well, I went to the meeting to talk. First of all, I thought it was too much in that area, but I wanted to speak to them to the fact that here in the Lower Ninth Ward, we don't have a bank.
Really?
Yeah. So it dawned on me just the other day about, well, damn, it might be advantageous for us to start a credit union. At least we'll have. We don't actually need something that has all of the services like a debit card and all of that. We need somewhere where you can say, I can just go put my money in the bank till I need it when I pay my insurance, or I need a place to go cash my check. And that those monies like that generate money, and not charge an arm and a leg. Have money orders that people who can't get out, don't have a checking account, maybe can join and buy, something to pay a bill, or maybe it's because we're a credit union, we could get affiliations with people to pay bills. So to me, I see a credit union today being more of a place where we have a lot of people that has bad credit, or no credit, and sometimes no credit is even worse than bad credit. I see the credit union being a place where people could hopefully go back to the old mantra of saving and then buying. And I think that's where credit union is going to be advantageous to little small neighborhoods like mine, or little small unions like Domino Sugar. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar deal. We working people. We're people that work with small amounts of money, and that's what basically a credit union is. Mm-hmm. So I can see it being more advantageous in that aspect, being more of a service to the community. Being able to cash checks and places people could go pay bills, and if they got a few extra dollars they can put up, and hopefully we can have some deals that we can. That we could say, okay, we could give a little extra money for interest in that, because this is our credit union. This is not a big conglomerate with somebody that lives hundreds of miles away that's making the determinations of what you're doing or what's going to be done with your money. So I see a future for credit unions in that respect.
Do you think it would be something where, thinking about your credit union, expanding to a community charter and bringing in all these people, or do you see it as more something where you'd want to have like many small ones that are run by volunteers, like yours is?
The more you have is the more strength that you have. It would either be a larger one that everybody join, or it could be a few smaller ones that has an affiliation to be a bigger one. Whereas you may have more participation, because now you got a board here, 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 instead of one board that maybe not be representing everybody, So I could see a lot of different ones, because size is not the main thing with the credit union. The main thing with the credit union, it would be size, but it would be the size that's attributed to the amount of capital that we can hold. Meaning, not your liquid money, the money that you're paying your bills with, but money that you can say, I can hold on to this. If it's no more than $5 or $10, if you and me and him and him and him and him and all of us have our $10 together, then our $10 could earn us a little something by maybe lending it out to somebody and getting a little more money. And then hopefully lending it out to people in your own neighborhood, so it's an economical impact. The money that goes in is the money that's coming right back out. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Mm-hmm. One of the things I did do, I always, whatever I did, I tried to make myself adept to different things. And the economics of things is where, in the credit union, that's when I started to try to educate myself with. One of the things I found amazing was that the Vietnamese community here in New Orleans, they come here in the late 60s, early 70s, and they are a very viable community. One of the things that I read in the Vietnamese community, and I don't know if it's all over the United States, when I read this, it was a while back, or if it was just in New Orleans. I'm not remember how the thing is, but the premise of the article told me that the Vietnamese dollar circulates almost completely in its community, and it was a small community that's here in New Orleans, meaning that their dollar is not going out of the community, very little of it. And when we looked at our community, 99 cents of our dollars was going out of the community. Barely a penny was staying in the community. What that was telling me was that we had businesses in the community, and this is before the storm because we don't have many businesses here now. We had businesses in the community that the money we were putting in, they weren't coming back out as them hiring us or them buying some of the service, like say maybe going to our mechanics that we have here, whatever other things that you can spend your money, they weren't spending it here. So our dollar was going in, I say going out, but never coming in. So we were investing in these different businesses, but these different businesses weren't investing in us. So I see the credit unions as being incubators for our neighborhoods, to where hopefully our money can circulate amongst ourselves more, so it will prosper us all in our communities.
And so what do you see as kind of the next steps towards like kind of realizing that, making that happen?
Trying to convince people that it is better to save a little bit than just get everything that you want now. And that's something I'm trying to get over to my grandchildren, and I think I did a pretty good job with my children, because my children, I provided for them, but I provided to a limit, and then after that they had to participate in getting those extra things they wanted. I ain't gonna say they were wanting for anything, but they had to put effort toward that. So all my children have moved out the house now. They haven't moved far. My daughter lives right next door with my two grandsons, and my son lives across the street with his son. But they own their own houses, Or my son, he rents from us. My daughter rented from us at one time, and she bought her own home. So the economics of things, for me, I can see it working with my children. Now, they're not exactly where I want them to be, but I look at it as me being the credit union or the bank. They don't owe the bank anything. If they do borrow from the bank, they do pay back, and I think they realize that it keeps our money circulating within the realms of things. So I got a little orbit of things going on right here in my community. So I tell my son, I used to tell my daughter when she rented from me, and they don't pay late, they pay on time, because my wife won't allow it. I tell them, I say, you see, when I die, you ain't got to say I left you nothing. You paying for your inheritance now. And that's kind of like something that we need to let young people know, Pay for your inheritance now, whether it's, it's your grandmother's or your aunt or somebody's house, or, you putting rent up, put some money up to buy your house, save off on getting that new car and get your new house. And I think America as a whole, we're going to be better for it, So I just think it's something that we just have to advise and lay the material out. I think one of the big problems in the school as a whole today is that they're not relating the criteria what they're teaching in school to the kids, where they can see it as viable for them. In other words, I'm a teacher math. Well, that's simple. I learned math. I count my money. Teaching you history. Well, what I need history for? We need to show them and relate to them why we need history. We need to know what happened before, because nothing is new. Everything is recycled. And if we can show them that, then they will realize that everything out there is not new. It's just recycled. And realizing that, and, maybe they have a different outlook on things, and thinking that, oh yeah, I'm a genius, and everything I thought I was good, and everything my parents thought I was crazy, But just like everybody, we all find out that, our parents wasn't as dumb as we thought they was, because almost everything they ever told us comes true.
Oh yeah. So any sort of just kind of final thoughts or final reflections on, the credit union experience? Or
well, my final thoughts on it is this: that I'm truly believing in the credit union. I think it's a big help, and my final thing is I'm just proud that we got a young man like you that think there's enough interest in it to have to record it and let people know about it. And I think that's all part of this new generation of us, of you guys, realizing that everything do go around, you see? So you see the worth in it, so that tells me young people are going to see the worth in it,